Yo, what's up? James again, back with another video with no bass action in it. If you're not interested in that, then move on if you'd like. But today, I'd like to talk about a couple of bass myths that I fucking hear all the time that kind of piss me off. So, you know, I want to put my opinion out there on the internet because that's what it's for. So I got a little list here. First on the list is mounting an amp onto a box. Yeah, so I'm sure you know how I feel about that one. And I said this 1,000 times and I'll say it again. If you built your enclosure right, it should be the one thing in the vehicle that vibrates the least. I mean, there is no other place in this vehicle that vibrates any less than right here. So, oh, got a neighbor coming down. Gonna wait for him to walk away and pretend like I'm not recording a video right now. All right, he's far enough away. All right, second myth that I hear all the time. Actually, let me drive that point for the last one back in. Your box should be solid enough to mount an amp onto. If it's not, then your box sucks. Build a better box and it'll be fine. Or you can use isolators, but I've never used isolators. I just screw it straight to the shit and I've never had an issue. Next one, big subs play lows, small subs are punchy or something along the lines of that. That's fucking just totally not true. It's 100% dependent on the design of the subwoofer and the soft parts that that subwoofer has, along with the enclosure that it's in. You can make just about any sub play lows and you can make just about any sub punchy. Like, for example, if I took this port out and I tuned this wall at 55 hertz or whatever it was when I first built it without a port in it, these sundowns that are very well known for playing very violent, nasty lows aren't going to play lows at all. They're going to fall off super hard in the mid 30s. It's not going to play lows and it's going to fucking play highs really good. It'll be fucking loud as shit, but I'm not down for that kind of bandwidth. I prefer wind. I like that 20 hertz shit. That's where it's at. So yeah, I mean, I've seen 18s that can play well up into the 70s, and I've seen 8s that some people, though, I mean, I don't really think it's a good idea, but I've seen people play down to into the low 20s with 8s, and they don't break them often. But, you know, it definitely can be done. It's in the box design and the suspension design of the particular woofer that you're using. So when somebody says, oh, small subs are for punchy bass and big subs are for big boomy bass or something along the lines of that, tell them they're wrong and then tell them why. Next one. This one's about building boxes. So it's screws versus glue. And you should always use glue when building a box, all the time. You can go without using screws. The main purpose of using screws when building a subwoofer enclosure is to hold the pieces together while the glue dries. The glue itself, especially like actual wood glue, like for example, Titebond 2, which is what I use for all of my sub boxes, along with PL8X if there's, you know, big gaps and shit, but that's kind of a different thing. Titebond 2 is stronger than the wood around it when it is a good solid glue joint. Like, there's plenty of videos online of people testing that. They will take Titebond 2, glue 2 pieces of wood together, and then break them apart, and the glue held and the wood around it breaks. So a good, well-glued glue joint is going to be stronger than the wood around it. So the screws aren't really doing much, especially if you're doing what I did for my very first box and put a screw every fucking 1.5 inches. That actually weakens the wood because you're cutting a whole bunch of holes in it, which definitely doesn't help the structural integrity of that box. Now granted, I've gotten away with it. I had one of these subs in a single layer, single baffle, 3/4 inch MDF box that was braced with 1.25 inch wooden dowels, and it did fine. It did a 52 at 27 hertz window down, and I beat on that shit for like a year and never had an issue. It was perfectly fine. So, yeah, glue is actually more important than screws. You don't really need that many screws, but you know, using clamps is annoying as shit because when you're gluing a box together with clamps, you gotta wait for it to dry. You can't move it around until it's dry and all that shit. You gotta leave clamps on it. Clamps are all hella big and shit, and it's annoying. It's a lot easier and less time consuming to build a box with a couple of screws, knowing that you're only using these screws to hold the wood together while the glue dries, and still be able to work with the box while that glue is drying. So say, you know, you build the bottom, back, and two sides and you glue the whole port together. You don't want to wait for the glue on those port pieces to dry before you can put that port inside of the box. You want to just glue it, screw it, put it in, glue it, fucking put the top on, put the baffle in, be done. But can't really do that with clamps because you gotta wait because you got a bunch of shit in your way. So yeah, screws and glue. Glue is important. You can go without screws. Don't fucking ever go without glue. It's gonna be a really shitty box. And another thing, so like I mentioned, I had one of these 92-pound subs in a single baffle, single layer, 3/4 inch box that was braced with 1.25 inch wooden dowels. That box is actually still in my garage and I use it as a workbench now, and I'll go show you that here now. And this is it, right here. Fucking look at that. Single layer MDF, 3/4 inch, 2 wooden dowels, just like that. And this box is at a 52 at 27 in all of its fucking shitty looking glory. Yeah, so that box, like I said, it did 152 decibels at 27 hertz with the window down, and it did 150.9 decibels sealed on the dash at 46 hertz. And I beat on that box for a long time, like a little bit over a year, and I never had any issues with it. Never an issue at all. The box didn't flex at all. Like I said earlier, if you build a box right, it was my first box, but I mean, I did good enough. If you build a box right, then it should be the least vibrating thing in the whole vehicle. So yeah, I never had any issues with that. A lot of people say, oh, you have to double baffle every box or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And you really don't. Even if I can use a 92-pound sub on a 5,000 watt amp in a single layer 3/4 inch MDF box, it's fine. Now here's the important caveat. I've never said that word before, but that first for everything. The caveat to that is you have to brace it. You can't just have a single layer 3/4 inch MDF box with no bracing inside and a 92-pound 18. That's dumb and it's probably gonna break. But if you put, you know, significant bracing in it, and I'll show you again right here. And here it is again. There you go. Fucking dowels. Fucking what else you want? Jeez. It's only got 2 dowels in it, and that was plenty. I never had any issues at all. So yeah, if somebody tells you that, oh, your sub weighs 40 pounds and it's 2,000 watts RMS, you need a double baffle. Now, don't get me wrong. Double baffles are going to be stronger, especially if you also brace with that double baffle. Double baffles can also look really nice too, because you can do the countersunk sub cutout, which is really fucking cool looking. It looks really dope when the sub's all flush with the box and shit. Looks fucking awesome. But it's not 100% necessary, so don't let people tell you that it is 100% necessary. Unless you're doing some like real high power shit like this. I mean, this baffle's 3 inches thick. So, I mean, with something like this, you probably want to go overkill just to be safe, but it's not always necessary to double baffle a box. And it's the same thing with like putting 45 corners in the box as well. It really doesn't make a difference if you're just, you know, daily listening to it, you know. If you're just a regular Joe Schmo, you don't compete with it, you're not chasing every tenths of a dB, and you just want something to sound good, and you're trying to save a couple bucks talking to your box builder, blah, 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 leave out the 45s. It's not going to make a fucking difference. It's not going to make a lick of difference. I've had boxes personally where I built them originally without a 45. I played it. I put a 45 in it. Absolutely no difference at all. Couldn't hear a lick of difference. Maybe the meter would have picked up a difference, but I wasn't really metering often at this time because I didn't own one. But I didn't hear a difference at all. So, I mean, and that's the same with a lot of different people. A lot of people have had that experience. So are 45s 100% necessary in every box? No, definitely not. They are certainly not necessary in every box. Now, if you want to overkill everything, you know, which is totally cool, I'm into that, go for it. I'm not telling you to not to. I'm just saying it's not 100% necessary for every build all the time, especially if it's low power stuff, like 1,000 watts or less, 1,500 watts or less. You're never going to notice the difference in putting 45s in your box. And with that little power, you're never going to fucking break a single baffle box if it's built right. It'll be just fine. You won't need a double baffle for anything under 1,500. And like I said, you don't really need one anything under about 3,300 clamped into 92-pound sub. And I proved that myself. So, let's move on to the last myth. The one that hits me closest to home, and it is about these Brazilian amplifiers. So, man. Brazilian amps have gotten quite the bad rap over the past couple of years. And the reason why is because they are a lower budget type of amplifier built for a different market in a different country. And they have their quirks, all right? Sometimes they have been known to burst into flames. But that was a long time ago, all right? That was mainly the Tara Amps HD series. And do they even fucking make those anymore? I don't know, because nobody fucking buys them because everybody's worried that they'll burst into flames. But they've fixed those issues with the newer MD series, and I haven't really seen too many of the new bass series do that either. So really the whole Tara Amps and Brazilian amplifiers as a whole being fire starters is kind of an unfair judgment. There was a lot of failures of amplifiers coming out of Korea previously in the past. Just like any other company has its fair share of failures. And you can't hold their failures when they were first starting against them for their entire run. It's not fair to the company. I don't know why I'm talking about it like that. I don't really care about the company that much. I do appreciate that they have some fair amps with a fair price tag. That's the best. But I mean, they're not that fucking terrible. Everybody talks so much shit. Oh, it's dirty power. It's cheap power. Blah, 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 blah. Now, some people have said that they can hear the difference between a Brazilian amp and a Korean amp. Me personally, nope. I daily a Brazilian amp, and almost every demo that I get is a Korean amp. There's like 5 or 6 people that run big Tara amps around me, so there's just not many people running Brazilian amps. But I get to experience it every time I drive my truck, and then I also get to experience Korean amps every time I get a demo in somebody else's. I don't fucking tell the difference, dude, especially when it's like 55 plus, and people say, oh, Korean amps don't play lows. Motherfucker, bro, are you serious? The shit plays solid down to 20 hertz and it's windy as fuck. Like, it's tuned at fucking 32. I mean, 20 hertz is a reasonable frequency. It's pretty fucking low, you know? So, I mean, the whole Tara amps don't play lows or Brazilian amps don't play lows, that's bullshit. There's definitely other stuff going on there. Dirty power. If it's a clean wave, it's a clean wave. I mean, there's no argument there. If you put it on an O-scope and it's a clean wave, it's a clean wave. There's no such thing as dirty power if it's a clean wave. If it's a dirty wave, then yes, it's dirty power, but Korean amps can do that too. So the dirty power argument is not a very good argument either. But I will be honest with you, Tara amps are a little finicky sometimes. They do have their quirks because they are built for a different market. They're built for the Brazilian market. They're not built for the American market. The American market is flooded with 4 and 5 volt pre-out head units. Well, guess what? Down in Brazil, they don't have that shit because they don't need big numbers, because they ain't all America need bigger numbers, everything all the time. They understand, like normal people, that pre-out voltage doesn't really matter that much because that's literally what the gain on an amplifier is for. I digress. That's the right word, right? I don't know. I'm using some words today. They're finicky, all right? So because they're built for a different market, Brazilian head units are all like 2 volt or less pre-out, right? So like these amps don't fucking work good or at all with input voltage of more than about 2 volts. And everybody who runs a Tara amp and tunes it themselves, they know this. They are aware that it has this quirk and you have to set things accordingly. It's not bad to have lower pre-out voltage out of your head unit. Like I said earlier, it really is only a thing because we're Americans and Americans like bigger things always, bigger numbers, this, that, whatever. It's not really necessary though. It will work just fine at 2 volts and it will sound just fine at 2 volts. Now, how do you take a 5 volt unit and fucking turn the voltage down? Turn the knob down or go into the head unit and set the sub out lower. Just turn it down. It's that easy. It fucking literally takes like 2 whole minutes and bam, then you can run Tara amps and not have to worry about input voltage. So that's one way that they're a little finicky. Another kind of shitty thing about them is the fans are loud as fuck. Yeah, here, I'll actually show you right now. You wanna hear my amp fans? Hold on. Yep, you hear that? There they go. Yeah, so amp fans are loud as fuck, but they only do that on startup. I'm not gonna just sit here for the next 2.5, 3 minutes and wait for them to warm up and go quiet. But they do go silent after about 2 or 3 minutes. They only do that on warm up. Don't be fucking leaving no comments. Oh, those fans are terrible. How can you deal with that all the time? I don't. It's like for fucking 2 or 3 minutes when I start the truck up and who cares? They were like fucking $750 for a 12K. Man, like I spent like a little over 12 or 1,300 bucks for 24,000 watts worth of amp. I mean, can you really fucking complain about these little quirks and shit for these prices? No, they're not gonna burst into flames. They sound fine. Fucking get the fuck over it. Shit. That's it. Bye.